up the actual, is that the bell? Okay, I thought I was hearing things. Okay, so I'm going to actually do this one right here. So I'm going to start at number 6. These are the in-class practice. So it says you're going to graph P equals F of V. Which variable goes on the x-axis? Okay, so first thing you got to remember that this is your input, like your x. This is your output. Okay, that means I can put anything in here and out will come a P. So what if I were going to do a point? My point would be VP. Okay, so then if that's what that looks like, so I always do this. I say, what's my input? What's my output? Which variable goes on the x-axis? I'm going to make a point out of it next. And then life is in quadrant 1. So here's quadrant 1. This would be in my X spot, and this would be in my Y spot. That's what that would look like. So I kind of do this every time. Then I answer the question, which variable goes on the x-axis? What's it going to be? V. Okay, so you're like, man, that's an easy question. Well, they do that on purpose. They just want to know, do you know what an input and output is? Okay, so if 27 equals f of -4, give the coordinates of the point on the graph of f. What would it be, guys? -4, 27. See, I'm not trying to trick you. It's just, do you understand how function notation goes? Okay. If 7 is the solution of the equation 4 equals f of v, give the point on the graph. So in what spot does the 7 go then, if it's a solution to this? In the v spot, right? That's with the 7. So what would the point be? 7, 4. So this is like, sometimes when I first start with linear, people go, oh my gosh, that is so simple. But I'm going to tell you, when I first started doing math, and I love math, I would flip them sometimes. So I'm trying to make sure that you guys understand, if something depends on something, anytime you do this, if you do a point xy, y depends on x. So this is my input, and I know I did this in the notes. This is my output. We call this the independent variable, and we call this the dependent. Okay? So it's like you have to figure out what depends on what, so you can set up the point to figure out how you graph it. So I always, ready? I do this every single time. I label the crap out of it. That's what I do. I make a point out of it, and I always set up a little mini graph. Then you can kind of answer any questions. Questions on that one? Okay, let's try 7. So this is kind of cool. You might need your calculators to help me with this. So this one says the cost C of your monthly phone bill consists of a $30 basic charge. Let me erase this so I can see. A $30 basic charge plus 10 cents for each minute of long. Don't take it out, hon. Sorry, I have to wipe them off. Go ahead. It's all right. You already did. Use it. No, that's okay. That's why they're in the bag. Okay, so what I tried to do was make it so that I could wipe them off. It's okay. It's okay, hon. It's okay. So anyway, so here's the cost of this. Your monthly phone bill consists of $30 basic charge plus 10 cents for each minute of long distance calls. Complete the table below and sketch the graph. So let's do this first. So if I talk no minutes, how much is it going to cost me? $30, right? Instead of $30 basic charge. So this is time in minutes. I always label it, and this is the cost in money. So I don't really need to put the dollar sign there. Okay, so for 30 minutes, how much would I pay? Well, think about it. I have to pay $30, right? And then I have to pay what? 10 cents a minute, right? What's 30 times 10 cents? There's 30 times 0.1. What is it? $3, right? So how much is it going to cost me to talk 30 minutes? 33. How about 60 minutes? 36, because isn't it $3 more for 30 more minutes? And then you can say, oh, 60 times 0.1 is $6 plus I have to pay the 30. How about 90 minutes? Get the idea? 120. 150. 45. Okay, see how that works? 45. So here I have this thing. Now I want to show you guys. I call these carrots. I made it up. Totally made it up. And I think I'm not going to use these earrings when I tape. can hear them keep clicking. So what I want you guys to do is, what you're going to do is basically, we're going to kind of figure out what the average rate of change is, which is what? What's the average rate of change? Slope. So I have to do slope. Well, guess what, guys? When I do slope with a table, it's wicked easy. Isn't this my x? Isn't this my y? So it's delta y over delta x. Well, delta is the change in the y, so they're your carets. What am I going from 30 to 33? 3. What's this? 3. What's this? Get the idea? So that's my delta y if you think about it. So I'm just going to write this here for you. That's my delta y. My change in my y's or my change in my cost is $3. Now, this is delta x would be what? 30. 30. Get the idea. They're all the same. But that doesn't necessarily have to be it. What has to be is constant is delta y over delta x. Delta y over delta x. So my rate of change is really 3 over 30, or what? When you put 3 over 30 in your calculator, what do you guys get? What is it? 1/10, or what's that as a decimal? 0.1. Okay, what was that in our problem? Isn't 0.1 10 cents? Isn't that 0.1? So basically, your rate of change is how much they charged per minute. Okay, now it says find the formula of C in terms of T. So let's do y equals b plus mx, because I always start out with that, and then we'll change it. So my b is my initial cost. So what's the cost of having this phone plan without me talking one single minute? $30. Okay. Now, this is, now remember, x and y, so this is really, if you think about it, this is the money, and this is the minutes. I get charged how much per minute? 10 cents. Well, they do it in dollars, so it's 0.1 per minute. So that is my formula, or we can write it this way. Cost equals $30 plus 0.1 per minute. And this is in minutes. Notice how I label the crap out of it, and that's in dollars. If you do that, guys, this is easy. You label the crap out of it, because I'm going to give you C's, T's, Q's, P's, Z's, R's, and you're not going to know what any of those are. You have to make sure that you can do it with Y's and X's first, and then go, oh, I see how they want me to do that. And that makes sense. Look, if I talk no minutes, don't I pay $30? Okay. The other thing I want to show you is the rate of change. So the rate of change really, so let's come back up to here, was the change in the cost over the change in the time, right? So when I came over this, or delta y over delta x, okay, when I go to label a rate of change, it always has 2 units, something per something, okay? Notice it's dollars. This line means the word per, and this was minute. So when I look at my answer is 0.1 right here, it's $0.1 per minute, or 10 cents a minute, right? So when you do the rate of change, it has a unit per unit. So I always tell the kids, if it purrs and it's not a kitten, it's a rate. Like miles per hour, that's how fast you're going. It's your rate, it's your velocity, okay? Questions? So here's the thing, guys. I know you have done linear functions before. I get it, I get it, I get it. But now you're in pre-calc. So I want to take that stuff you learned and apply it to that. That's the level I want you at. And you have no idea. It's almost like when I show a kid word problems, you can kind of see their head go, oh, great. Look at all that. I want you to have your superpower be, I can take those words, which is in English, translate them into math, and then you can actually come up with answers. And you don't even know what happens. And then after a while, I'll go, guys, look at the stuff you're doing. You're like, wow, that's amazing. And it finally, for the first time, kind of makes real sense that you can use it. Okay? Notice this 10 cents per minute is constant. That's why it's linear. Did it say it changed at all? Like after midnight's cheaper? They didn't tell you that. Okay? Okay, so are we good with those two? Okay, so let's try another one. So this helps you kind of do all this. Now, 8 and 9 are kind of the algebra part that I want you guys to be comfortable with. Now, when I gave you that, the problem for homework that you guys, for the quizzes, that's all average rate of change. It's all algebra. I want to know, can you do the algebra? And if I have time, I'll do one with you. Okay, so just remind me, say, Miss Pine, we got time. Will you do one? I'm like, sure. Okay, so ready? Here's the algebra page. So that other one was, can I understand what the linear stuff's saying? This one is, can you do just the pure algebra so that doesn't like hold you up? So the first one says, find the slope and the y-intercept for each of the following functions. In order for you to do that, notice they want slope, which I know is m, and y-intercept, which is b. And the formula we know is y equals b plus mx. I get the b is first, but the b is important. It's your beginning, especially because life is in quadrant 1. So I always tell the kids this. I go, life is in quadrant 1. It's a big L. Anytime we do with any word problem like the phone stuff, you don't want negatives. You don't want down here, the other 3 quadrants. You only want this. Now, this is algebra, so this can be anywhere. But any word problem, I always do the big L. Life is in quadrant 1, okay? So I want to find the slope and intercept. And you know what? Math people are lazy. They come up with these cool, they look at these, I shouldn't say that. They come up with these patterns. And then once you know the pattern, it's pretty easy. Is this set up in this pattern for me to just look at it? No. So I got to solve it for y to see if I can come up with that. So first thing I'm going to do is what? Do what? Yeah, well, we can subtract the 3x on both sides. Let's move it to the other side. So you guys are used to that. Sometimes you'll see me do that. I'm just going to move that over there. And when I move it either side, you just change signs. So I'm trying to get you guys really good at that. So I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to say I'm going to move it over there. So now I have 5y equals 20 minus 3x. Now, here's the deal. You could put the negative 3x first, but I like it in b plus mx form, so I just left it that way. Is the y by itself? Let's hook to it. A 5. How do I unhook it? Divide. Now, don't be lazy. I want you to divide each thing by 5. Okay, so now I have y equals 4 minus 3/5 x. Leave your slope in fraction form unless you're talking about like money or something like that. So now, ready? What's my slope? Negative 3/5. What's my y? My y-intercept? 4. So that means, ready? I could actually tell you what this looks like. So let's see how good we are. I know, here's my line, that this crosses at 4, and it's got a negative slope, so it's going to kind of go like this. Probably a little steeper than it looks, but I already know kind of what this looks like. It crosses at 4, and it's got a negative slope just by me knowing this, okay? Let's look at this one over here. If I was going to figure out what the slope and y-intercept is, I've got to get it in this form. Anytime you have a fraction, what's that mean that you do? Cross multiply. It's like a miracle when I do that. So let's cross multiply. So I have x minus y equals 10. Now you're in pre-calc, ready? You got to get y alone, right? But isn't it negative there? So watch what I do. You'll see me, oh, I'm moving that over there, making it positive, and I'm moving that over there. So I have x minus 10 equals y, or you can say it's y equals, you know, write it this way. I don't care how you do it, but you can move things over. I'm trying to get you more comfortable with that. So now, this is not in b plus mx form, but you guys do know, what is the slope on this one? 1, and the y-intercept? Negative 10. So this one, let's do a little sketch of this graph here. I'm going to erase this so we can see. So here's the sketch of this graph. Okay, so I want you to be able to see. So it's got a slope of 1, and it crosses down here at negative 10. So this is my little sketch, and it's in the positive direction, without even graphing it. Now, you guys are welcome to use a graphing calculator, but it's like I'm trying to get you guys used to that. Okay? Questions? So this is algebra. Can I tell you the y-intercept and the slope? Yes, I can. I might have to do some algebra to get it in that form, but once I do, I can tell you right off the bat. Okay? Questions? All right, let's do 9. So 9, it says find the following formulas. Now, this is kind of level I want you to be at for the algebra, besides the rate of change for linear functions, is if they give you this information, you can come up with the formula. So ready? It says find the formula of the line passing through these points. Okay. What do I have to have? It said line. So what's my formula? Yeah, y equals b plus mx. It's okay. Mx plus b is the same thing, but get used to saying b plus mx. It'll make your life easier. Trust me. I've done this a long time. Okay, ready? So I have to have b and I have m, right? So I look at it and say, first of all, did they give me the y-intercept or the b? So I'm going to stack and rack the points because that's how I like them. Do I know the y-intercept? Isn't the y-intercept 0 something? Is there any 0 something here? So I have no idea. So if I did, I could throw it right there, but I don't know. So what do you want to do first? Let's find the slope. So this should be getting easier for you to do. Slope is the change in my y's over the change in my x's. So I want you to get easy with this. Ready? I wouldn't do 2 minus 5. I would do what? 5 minus 2. Oh, you guys are getting better. Awesome. And then negative 1 minus 1. So if I do bottom up, I have to do bottom up as well. So I get the slope to be what? Negative 3/2, which means it's a negative slope in this direction. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this in this spot right here. Everybody thinks the x goes with slope, and it doesn't. The x and y's are points on your graph. It just is in front of the x value. Because I have people go, oh, the slope is negative 3/2 x. I'm like, no, it's just negative 3/2. The x, y's are a bunch of points on your graph. Okay. Now, I have to figure out with a b. Ideas. I didn't hear what you said, Juan. Yeah, you can plug a point in. Now, here's the deal. I want you to be smart lazy. Which point would you pick? 1, 2, y. Why is that smart lazy? It's a smaller number and there's no negatives. So if at all possible, avoid the negatives because I'm old and I still make mistakes, the negatives. So this is an xy. So I'm going to put in the y spot a 2 because I'm solving for b. And then in the x spot, I'm going to put a 1. And then I'm going to add 3/2 to both sides. So what's 2 plus 3/2? It's not on my forehead if you didn't use your calculator. I want you to do, because this is negative here, so I have to add 3/2 to both sides. So what does my b come out to be? 7/2. You know what I did in my head? Want to hear what I did? Ready? This has got a denominator 2. So I said, I got to add 3/2 to that 2, and it's a mixed number. So I said to myself, what's 2 with a denominator of 2? Isn't that 4/2? 4/2 plus 3/2 is 7/2. So I'm trying to show you this, guys, because my husband used to run a lumber mill, and he would always pick on me because he goes, Val, you just don't use mental math much. You're dependent on that calculator. I'd be the first to tell you, hi, I'm Mrs. Pond. I'd go to AA meeting, and I'm dependent on the calculator. No, I didn't. Just a joke. But he's right. So I make myself do mental math stuff because you guys can do that pretty quickly. So now I know the formula here is y equals 7/2 minus 3/2 x. And fractions are your friends, guys. Leave it. I don't want decimals. Unless you're talking money, I don't want decimals. Okay, are we good? Now they give you this table. Okay, ready? They told you to find the formula, and they said it's linear. Okay, ready? That's fine. What are you going to do when you have a table? First, right off, carrots. So 10 to 15 is 5, 5, 5. Okay, what's this here? Plus 9. What's this? What's this? Plus 9, right? What's this? Plus 9, right? I have to do y equals b plus mx. Now, I do not want that as a final answer because guess what's my x and what's my y? A c and an f. So I don't care if you do it with x's and y's, but you better switch it when you're done, okay? Okay, ready? What's something I know already by just doing what I did? What is the slope? What is the slope? Delta y over delta x. Delta y over delta x. What is it? 9/5. So this can come right here. You just found that with the table, okay? But you don't, these all don't have to match. What is important that this over this matches, okay? Now, how do I find the b? Yep. Plug it in, plug it in. I was always mad at Glade because they stole my thing. But you just have, I'm going to tell you right now, when you guys go to college, if your professor in math class says, what do you do next? Raise your hand and go plug it in, because 90% of the time you're right. Plug it in. But you better know what you're plugging in. So which point do you want to plug in? And be smart, lazy. 10 over 50, I would pick that. So in the Y spot, I'm going to put 50. In the X spot, I'm going to put 10. So multiply 9/5 by 10, and then you got to say 50 minus that. So what does B come out to be? $32. You know what I did in my head? Just showing you. Isn't this the same as 10 over 1? 5 goes into 10 twice. 9 times 2 is 18. 50 minus 18 is 32. Because I have no calculator up here. I mean, I could bring it up here, but I try to make myself do that. So my formula is, now we're going to use C's. C equals 32 plus 9/5 F. You know what this is, guys? This is the conversion formula. So again, my husband always had the basic formulas because he used to deal with Canada a lot. This formula is, if I plug any Fahrenheit in there, out will come the Celsius temperature, because they'll even say on the border or anything like that, they'll say, well, in Kingston, the temperature is blah, blah, blah. I don't know how warm or cold that is because I don't know Celsius as well. This is the conversion. So here, so 50 degrees Fahrenheit is 10 degrees Celsius. This is the actual conversion between the two. That's pretty cool, I think. Okay. All right. I'm going to do one more with you. Just one more. I'm just going to check, see, make sure it's still recording, because I don't want it not to be recording. Hang on a second. And it's still recording. Life is good. I'm so excited. I get so worried sometimes that something's going to go wrong. Okay, so find out where we were. All right, so let's go back. This is the last thing I'm going to do with you, number 10. So, and I like to make up stuff so that you guys can see. So this is the last one. And then the other warm-ups, guys, just so you know, 11, the other, guess what I'm going to do those? One, Monday during class with them, that you have to watch to make sure you see what I'm saying? That I'm just going to keep moving. That's how I'm going to do it. All right, perfect. All right, so I have the pond company, that's me, has found that, oh, you know, by the way, I love the name for a girl. I always love the name Autumn. I didn't use Autumn for one of my daughter's names. Doesn't Autumn Pond some place that you would actually go camping? So then I love the name Brooke. Can you imagine if I picked Brooke Pond? So I had to pick different names. So it's like, I liked my last name, but it's like, it was limiting when I had to think of things, because it was like Brooke Pond, that poor kid would have been tortured in school. So anyway, the pond company has found that there's a linear relationship. Oh, that's good to know. Between the amount of money that they spend on advertising, so advertising money. See what I'm doing? I'm reading and underlining stuff. This is what you got to do. And the number between and that and the number of feasels they sell. Ooh, what's a feasel? I don't know, made it up. I sell feasels. I don't know what they are, but let's pretend, okay? So I'm like, okay, so I have things depending on something. So I have to say to myself, because this is how you need to figure this out, is the number of feasels I sell depending on the advertising money, or is it the other way around? Does the advertising money depend on the feasels? So you have to think about that a little bit. So I'm going to give you something like huge, okay? When you have a big company, this is what CFOs do kind of. They look at trends to see. When they have cars and they're trying to sell cars and all that stuff, don't they do all this advertising so you can come in and buy a car? But they have to figure out, if they spend this much on advertising, they only sell this many cars. They got to figure out what the balance is, so that if they spend some money on advertising, can they sell the cars to offset that cost of the business? That's what they do, okay? So advertising brings cars in. So in this case, what do you think advertising does? Brings people in to buy what? Feasels. So in this case, I say to myself, does the number of feasels depend on the advertising, or their advertising depend on the feasels? And it's going to be the number of feasels I sell is going to depend on advertising. That's what I think. So let me read it. So they say if there's no money on advertising, they sell 200. So I was right. So the number, if I have no money in advertising, so I'm going to make a point out of that, I'm going to sell how many feasels? 200. So my point is 0, 200. Here's number, here's money. Average. So it's like, put the units there. Once you do this, it makes so much sense. So this depends on that. Now I'm going to put it down here because I want to make sure you have room to write. Okay, so now the next thing they tell me, for every $4,000 spent on advertising, they sell an additional 100 feasels. So where does the 4,000 go if I'm going to make a point? In the what spot, X or Y? X, right? Because we just said this is the money, right? So if I spend $4,000 on advertising, how many feasels would I sell? I would sell an additional 100. 300, right? Now I have points. After this is a piece of cake. And I've labeled them, all right? So I'm just going to do Y's and X's because that's what they let us do here. Y equals B plus MX. So I'm basically going to come up with a formula for my feasels and my advertising money. So this is what they're trying to figure out. So what do I know right off the bat? I know my B. How come I know my B? The X is 0. So this is basically telling you this is my beginning. B is my beginning, right? So I'm going to show you a picture. Ready? So if I'm going to label this, you already told me money is going to go here, and you already told me that the number of feasels is here. So they said they sell 200 if there's no money. So right here at 200 is what they start, and it grows. So that's why it's a 0 there, because you didn't spend any money on advertising, but you still just sold 200 feasels. That makes sense? So I can put the 200 where? In the B spot, right off the bat. So that's nice, because that's not work I have to do yet, okay? Now what am I going to do? Find the slope. You guys know how to do that, right? Go ahead. Do the slope. Slope is delta y over delta x. Figure out how you want to subtract it. I'll put it here. So what do I get my slope to be? 1 over 40? Is that right? Okay, so here's the thing. I don't want you to go, I am a robot, I just found that number, I have a formula. I want you to think about that, because that's one of the answers later on. What does the 1 stand for? So I'm like, the 1. What was the top? The top was number. This is the word per. The bottom was money, right? So what's 1 over 40 stand for in words? I can sell 1 feasel for every or per 40 bucks off advertising. Isn't that easy? Label the crap, then I know my unit. So down here at the bottom, ready? It says, what is the slope? It's 1 over 40. The 1 is the number. This is dollars. So give an interpretation of the slope. So for every 1 feasel sold, I spend $40 in advertising. Come on, why did it stop writing? Oh, there it goes. It was like acting weird. That's pretty cool. Now, as a CFO, which is a chief financial officer of a company, that's good to know. So I better sell my feasels for more than 40 bucks. What do you think? Right? If you want to make money, my feasels should cost more than 40. And there's probably more cost to that. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's good to know that information. So let's go back up. So I'm actually going to come up with my formula here. So y equals 200 plus 1 over 40x. And I'm going to label the crap out of it because Mrs. Pond said to. So this is the number of feasels, and this is going to be the money. Now, when I ask you questions, it's wicked easy to do now. I can say, how many feasels does the pond company sell if they spend $16,000 in advertising? Where are you going to put the $16,000? In the X spot. Go ahead and do it and tell me how much the cost is. So go ahead and put the $16,000 in there, and then I ask you about $32,000. So do them both and tell me how much it's going to cost in advertising. once I know the relationship, that's pretty easy. Whenever anybody gets the first one, please tell me. So if I spend $16,000, how many Feasels do I sell? 600 Feasels. Good to know. That's the first one. Now I want to spend $32,000 on advertising. So I plug a $32,000 in there. How many? 1,000 Feasels. Now, does anybody need to see me do that? Because I'm happy to do that for you. Okay? But do you see what I'm doing? And I'm doing this on purpose because I'm doing it the way I used to make mistakes. I used to make mistakes. I'd get them backwards. And then I just said, I'll label the crap out of it, make a point, set up the graph, and then it makes sense and it doesn't ever mess you up. Okay, the last one I'm going to have you do on this is how much advertising money if I want to sell 5,000 Feasels. Well, where's the 5,000 going to go in my formula right here? In the Y. So I want to know, I want to sell 5,000 Feasels. Okay, now this one I want to help you with a little bit because you guys are in pre-calc and I want you to do that way. The first thing you're going to do, I get, is subtract 200, right? So I've got 4,800 equals 1 over 40x. But because we're in pre-calc, we don't go, okay, now the 1 over 40 is hooked to the x. I divide by 1 over 40. Stop. I want to know what x is. You don't divide by 1 over 40. You multiply each side by the reciprocal, which is 40. That's way easier. If I multiply both sides by 40, that turns to a 1, and my answer is much quicker. So how much advertising money do I have to spend to sell 5,000 Feasels? 100, if you say 192,000? Yeah. Okay. Now, I just did for you today 2 problems that were like real life things where I had you interpret and come up with points, and then strict algebra. Now, remember, guys, next class, when you're not here, I will be doing the next part, which is the other ones in this packet. So I want to make sure that you guys realize that. And I'm going to stop this recording.